So, Lena, I think we can get started if everybody's ready. Um, Good afternoon and welcome everybody. You're very welcome to this Health Sciences Faculty Forum on intensifying innovation. If I said that correctly. Something which I think you have expressed a lot of interest in hearing more about. So thanks for Lena and indeed the team at Trinity Innovation and Enterprise for coming along today and putting this together. And I'm sure we're going to be all very informed and at the end of it. There's plenty of time, plenty of opportunity for questions as well. So please put your questions into the Q&A or the chat. Which is it, the Q&A or the chat are we using today? Do we have Q&A set up? Anyway, either one, we'll get that to you in a moment.
It's the
Um,
Q&A.
the
Yeah.
Q&A, please
Yeah.
try to use that. It's just easier for us to manage it on this end. So we're going to have Gordon Elliott go first, and Gordon is a knowledge exchange from the Knowledge Exchange office. He's the technology transfer case manager for health sciences, and he's going to do an overview. Gordon will be followed by Owen Kieran, and the knowledge transfer case officer, who's going to talk about IP, the IP Alliance, with some specific examples from health sciences. And then thirdly, we're going to have Lynn Markey. Lynn is a business development manager, part of the industry business development team, and we'll talk about some case studies from successful collaboration in health sciences. And they'll be available for some Q&A afterwards, as will Emma O'Neill here on the call as well. Emma is the life sciences case manager in Connects and has already worked extensively with health sciences faculty. So I think without further ado, I'm going to hand over to you, Gordon, and give you the floor.
Great. Thanks, Brian. I'm just going to attempt to share my screen now. Screen to application windows, PowerPoint, share. Hopefully this is showing up. Yeah,
Yep.
and we've got full screen.
Yep, it is.
Perfect. Okay. As Brian said, I'm Gordon Elliott. I'm the Senior Patents and Licensing Manager at Trinity and the Case Manager for MedTech and Health Sciences Commercialization. I want to say a big thanks to the Faculty Office, particularly the Dean and Talene Doherty for arranging today. It's a great opportunity. I should note the Dean will be mentioned later as one of our innovators in the dental school. But just to say again, it is a really great opportunity for us to engage broadly with the research community across all 4 schools in the health sciences. So I'll be presenting a short overview, about 10 minutes, on Trinity Innovation and Enterprise. My colleague Owen Kieran will follow up with deeper details on health-specific activity and supports, and our colleague from Portal, Lynn Markey, will introduce industry engagement supports. And we're joined by Emma O'Neill. I think I'm just repeating what Brian said earlier. Okay, so I'm just going to go on to our slide. It didn't move. Right. Okay, so Trinity Innovation and Enterprise. Okay, so we're under significant restructuring over the past 2 to 3 years. Trinity Innovation Enterprise was created when Trinity Research was split off to a different structure under the Dean of Research, and then a new Chief Officer role was created, the Chief Innovation and Enterprise Officer, creating Trinity Innovation and Enterprise, so TI&E as we call it internally. It's led by our Chief Innovation Enterprise Officer, Michelle Olmsted, and then she oversees 3 directorates. Okay, so there's Portal, led by Neil Gordon, Nessa McNiff, Learnovate, who's led by Nessa McNiff, and Connects, which is my unit, led by Vincent Cool. So Learnovate, it's an Enterprise Ireland funded technology centre. It's focused on research and development of teaching, learning and training technologies. So if you have a need or an idea for improving teaching and learning, they're the National Centre of Excellence for this, and they really are great collaborators. Portal then is home to our industry collaboration and business development team. And Lynn Markey will be going into more detail on this later. Portal also houses our managed consultancy unit, our student entrepreneurship training team, and is also responsible for development of the Portal building at Trinity East, Grand Canal Quay. This is one of the major projects at Trinity at the moment. So the next slide, getting into the detail. This is my own unit, next, led by Vincent Cool. There's 9 of us in the unit focused on technology transfer, knowledge exchange, as it's more commonly known these days. And we've been merged recently with the contracts office, so all the research contracts team are together with ourselves. So that creates a unit of, I think, between 20 and 30 people, about 25 maybe. So just focusing in on that knowledge exchange and tech transfer, there's myself, I suppose in relation to health sciences in particular, myself as the case manager for MedTech, Emma O'Neill, the case manager for life sciences would be your primary contact points. And then we're supported by Owen Kieran, who's our case officer. He joined us about a year ago to help us out with our IP Alliance initiative. We also have Aoife Tierney and Lena Moore, who work on IP development. They help us out with marketing. A couple of other individuals here to mention. Samantha Williams is our licensing manager. She looks after all licensing. And Linda Boylan recently joined our team with spin-out development. So Trinity would be one of the, I suppose, few universities that have the scale to be able to have dedicated licensing managers and dedicated spin-out managers. But the likes of UCD and UCC would also have those type of dedicated functions. Okay. So what do we do? Well, we're focused on the commercialization of Trinity research for economic and societal benefit. That is our tagline. Really, what we focus on is post-research activity, I suppose you could say. So the outputs of research, making sure that those things can be translated and supporting the translation of them out into society and out into investment. So some of the activities that we do to enable this, well, we manage the Trinity's intellectual property. So we file all the patents, we manage the patent portfolios. I suppose we were the asset managers for all the patents. We also are responsible for policy and regulations governing IP. So we own the Trinity IP policy. Like our colleague Samantha Williams would be in charge of that from our point of view. We would support industry and academic research collaborations, particularly where there are IP questions, in grants, etc. And we also drive the creation of new campus companies. So we're responsible for spin-outs, and we've got fairly aggressive targets. And we've been quite successful. I'll show you some numbers in a few minutes. We also do IP training for researchers. So if there's anybody here looking for IP training for a unit or a group, we're very, very happy and we're delighted to be able to come along and give a seminar for 45 minutes or so at any time. So please get in touch with us if you would like to do that and get more details. So yeah, so that's what we do. Just to give you an idea of some of our outputs, and as I said, we're very focused on translation. Okay, so our success really is measured on output type of activity, and that's measured often by our spot. Like we are supported by Enterprise Ireland, and they want us to really focus in on startups. So what we have here is a snapshot of about 3 years data. It's actually not new data. It's a few years old. It's probably 2020, 2021, 2022 kind of thing. But it is just to give you a picture of what the type of things that happen. So over those 3 years, we had 15 spin-outs, and 9 of them would have been regarded as what they call high potential startups. That's a mark of kind of a higher level of quality. And those 15 spin-outs raised 100 million, or our spin-outs during those 3 years raised 100 million in follow-on investment. So that's huge. And even this year now, we're seeing that we're going to be reporting investments of about 80 million in Trinity spin-outs. There's a new fresh investment going in. Some of it's seed investment, some of it's follow-on investment. But it just goes to show the kind of leverage that happens when a spin-out from research goes out there. This is all investment from venture capital and from capital and investments from outside of the public. It's professional commercial investment. 350 jobs were created in those spinouts. There was 22 products and services launched to the market. We did 73 new licenses in that period of time. And then there was exits, and it was an exceptional time with, I think it was 2019 when Inflazone was acquired. But that year it was 730 million of acquisition value. And that was largely dominated there by Inflazone, which was in and around 400 million. But there was also bigger ones like ETU, Silver Cloud, and Identigen, bringing that number up to an exceptional 730 million. So that's just a general picture. A lot of this is driven by enterprise and commercialization funds. So, we're doing 5, 6, up to 9 of commercialization fund projects per year. We also have the University Bridge Fund. There's 80 million Bridge Fund 2, and we're talking about Bridge Fund 3 right now. And then we've got 167 inventions disclosed over those 3 years and 51 patents filed. In a typical year, we would get 60 to 70 invention disclosures. We'd be filing 15 to 20 patents. We'd be doing 10 to 12 licenses, and we'd be doing, about 5 to 6 spin-outs. So it's very busy, very active. Just to give you a little bit of about background on the knowledge transfer, this is the KT Boost program. It's a four-year, 33 million government fund. Trinity's got 6 million of that approximately to fund our activities for I think it's for 4 years up until the end of 2027. And as part of that, which is part of what I want to mention here today, is we have this strengthening sector alliances. We call it the IP Alliances Initiative. So this allows external organizations who have research activity to access Trinity from the point of view of intellectual property support, but also being able to harness and connect them up with expertise at Trinity, expertise in infrastructure, and to get money from Enterprise Ireland to help them to develop these technologies. And you'll be hearing a bit more from Owen in a minute. And his role really is to drive that process. So what we were trying to do here is we were trying to get external organizations in public research, these being non-university, not-for-profit. We're looking at city county councils, the SEAI, airport authorities, transport authorities, and notably hospitals are coming into this as well. So the purpose here is to extend commercialization supports to hospital-based innovators that are not formally or not typically affiliated with Trinity schools. We're seeing medical physicists, nurses, physiotherapists, radiologists, pharmacists, all these types of people who have great ideas, who want to do some innovation. We are providing a case officer who's embedded part-time at the hospitals to help them to identify and support and progress and help them to formulate their ideas for medical innovations. And Owen is going to be talking a little bit more about some of that stuff that's been happening over the last year or so. Okay, we will be talking about a few selected projects, and actually we've got some framework agreements going as well. We've got a draft MOU and a draft IP assignment document, interinstitutional agreement template that is now it's been developed to underpin this process. And we are actually at the hospitals with this at the moment, discussing with both Tala and with St. James's, trying to progress the formalization of this MOU and agreement. Okay, so with that, I think it's time for me to hand over to my colleague, Owen. So Owen, can you take it away from there?
Yeah, thanks, Gordon. I'll just share the slides from me if you can stop sharing.
Yeah. Oh, you got it?
Okay, so that should be sharing now.
Yeah.
Great. So thanks, Gordon. And it's great to see so many in attendance on the call. So what I'm really going to talk about now are some of the specific supports available through the IP Alliance, and these have primarily been extended to hospital-based innovators, but we do hope we can also extend these to other sectors as well. I'm going to also introduce some specific examples of the supports and the projects we've been working with. And then I will speak about the IP and commercialization process at Trinity and the supports our office can provide to you around that as well. And I'll also then go into some specific examples from the Faculty of Health Sciences. So these supports are really around navigating the commercialization process. Things like identifying, protecting IP, and then also the development, management, and transactioning on that IP as well. Our office has been extending commercialization training and support around funding bids and advice on IP clauses and legal agreements too. And then some specific supports include really capturing that IP at the early stage in an invention disclosure form and supporting that completion of that, as well as on-site IP clinics, as Gordon mentioned. Primarily, this has been in the hospitals in St. James and Tala. We can also support with access to development funding. The key provider here is Enterprise Ireland through their commercialization fund, and we can support the application, the bid, as well as later stage commercialization strategy development and regulatory guidance as well. I suppose it's important to mention that we have been previously providing supports to hospital-based innovators, but now we really want to formalize that relationship and the supports. And it's through the IP Alliance initiative that we're seeking to do that. And through my role, being able to provide dedicated resources and boots on the ground, so to speak. So the first example I want to show you is a medical device for use in jaw fracture surgery. Now, this was developed both by two surgeons in the maxillofacial unit in St. James's Hospital, as well as medical physicists and product designers from the Design Innovation Lab in the Department of Medical Physics and Bioengineering. It was initially disclosed to our office in 2022, and I think it kind of highlights what we've been able to do with the IP Alliance is now with the dedicated support on site. We've really been able to progress this year. Where to the point where we filed a patent early in the year. We've also secured Enterprise Ireland feasibility grant funding to get a consultant in to validate the market need for this medical device. And we've since then been invited to submit for the full Enterprise Ireland commercialization fund of up to $500,000. So another example of a project that's been supported through our office and our activity up at the hospitals is this novel device that assists in the prevention of ventilator associated pneumonia. So the two kind of co-founders of this project and prospective spin-out company would be Ignacio Martin Lochez, but then also Emily Naylor-Jones as the co-founder, was an ICU nurse who actually wasn't formally affiliated with Trinity. Now, this was disclosed in 2022, and through the Enterprise Ireland Commercialization Fund secured of around $500,000, we've been able to put a really talented team, including engineers from Trinity, around that project to help develop this device. And finally is really an example of successful commercialization that's come about from these supports. This is a Trinity campus company, Hague Diagnostics, and their eye tremor device. So this is used to measure ocular microtremor as a biomarker for the assessment of traumatic brain injury and Parkinson's disease. And I guess this kind of highlights the long-term nature of commercialization. So you can see it was disclosed to our office in 2014. The key inventors, Dr. Jared Boyle and Dr. Mindaugas Norkus, they're both medical physicists in St. James's Hospital. This received two different lots of commercialization funding from Enterprise Ireland, formed the campus company in 2018, and then it was in 2025 in the last few months, you can see just signed a significant global license with Philips. So moving on now, I want to discuss the IP commercialization process at Trinity and the kind of supports that our office can provide you around that. So this starts at the stage of IP creation from research and the stage where the invention is first conceived, and goes right on to those later stages in commercialization, such as licensing to a spin-out company or existing company in industry. So the first stage here is really the generation of intellectual property, which is the raw material of commercialization. And when we talk about IP broadly, it's the results and inventions that arise from many of these research and development activities that occur at Trinity. But I suppose specifically we can think of it as, technical inventions and technologies. But I suppose more now with the emergence of the digital health field, there's software and algorithms are becoming more important, along with kind of know-how, processes, methodologies, and copyright at works that surround that as well. So the first stage where our office captures the intellectual property and at a point in time is at the stage of disclosure, and we capture this in what's known as an invention disclosure form. And in this forum, we want to understand and capture details around the technology. So the technical description, looking at the problems it addresses, any existing solutions that are out there, but also commercial applications. So where might this be used, in what fields, how is it going to be used, who is going to use it? This becomes important for patentability as well, but we also like to capture if there's been any disclosures of this in a paper presentation to date, or if there's been any third party property used to create the intellectual property, and will that place any restrictions on us commercializing it? And then we also like to understand what's out there already by doing a literature and patent search. And then finally, we like to capture the inventors who have conceived the intellectual property. So once this form's been completed, we then move on to the stage of technology evaluation. And what we're looking at here is patentability, understanding, can we secure a patent to protect this technology, and does the technology offer a better solution than what's available? We're also assessing about the market opportunity, so understanding if there's a large enough market to make this an attractive commercial opportunity to an investor. Is that market growing? Who are the competitors? Now, as I mentioned, we're doing some due diligence on the invention disclosure form at this point, all to really understand how can we commercialize this best. And we're looking at things like IP ownership as well. You know, who funded the research? Are there any terms and conditions attached to that funding when it comes to commercialization? So once we've completed this evaluation, we can then support in protecting the IP. And a lot of what our office deals with is patents. So the social contract in the patenting system is really you unveil your invention to the world so that others can learn from it and improve on it. And in return for doing so, you are granted these exclusive rights. And this allows you to prevent others from making, using, or selling the invention itself or infringing products wherever the patent protection applies. And this protection can last for up to 20 years from the filing date. And what we can do is we can sell or we can license these rights either to an existing company in industry, or we can create a campus company to commercialize that technology. So what exactly can be patented? Well, inventions that are novel to the world, so no previous public disclosure, and that's why in the invention disclosure form, we need to understand if there has been any disclosures to date. Another criteria is inventiveness. So, and what this means is really, would someone skilled in the field, based on the closest prior art, have found it obvious to arrive at your solution? As you can see, that can become quite subjective when we're speaking with patent offices and trying to secure protection. The third criteria is industrial application. So the technology must be able to be applied in an industry and be reduced to practice, so it can't be theoretical. And if you're considering filing a patent, I would just encourage you to come and speak to us as soon as possible, and we can support and facilitate this. But it can sometimes be useful when considering this to think of what not to do before filing. So you don't want to publish this before filing the patent, because then it would enter the public domain. No sale of products incorporating the invention as well. And then if there are any presentations or conversations, this should be covered under a non-disclosure agreement or an NDA, which is facilitated through our office, specifically through the research contracts team. Now, since research tends to be quite early stage, we'll need some money to develop this IP into a market-ready solution. As we've mentioned, the Enterprise Ireland Commercialisation Fund is a key mechanism to do that. So there's three primary funding streams there that we utilise. So the feasibility fund, which is 15,000 to validate that market opportunity before any further money and resources are committed to its development. They also have a proof of concept fund, which is up to 100,000 for a 12-month project, and that would be to validate the technology. So things like prototyping, user studies. And then they have the full commercialization fund, which that can be up to around 500,000, and that allows you to get the right team around the project to create the minimum viable product and ultimately to produce a commercially viable entity. So there are also other funding streams that we use, the European Horizon funding mechanisms and EIC and EIT. But importantly, now we have a new funding stream coming online, which is the ARC-Hub for Therapeutics. So the mission of the ARC-Hub is really to accelerate the transition of discoveries in the Irish biomedical research to commercial success. This is a 5-year program which kicked off in January 2025, and it's going to run through to the end of 2029. So there's 31 million available to advance the commercialization of this therapeutics research. And while it's led out of Trinity, it is a national program. So there's been projects funded across 8 universities. And as you can see below, some of your colleagues in the faculty have had projects funded already. And there will be a new call for projects in Q1 of next year. And there will be communications around that as well. So a key milestone that's also been achieved is the establishment of the operations team. So this has now been put in place. So there's people on the ground to manage the ARC-Hub projects who bring significant experience in drug discovery and development. There is the contact email there at the bottom to find out more, but we also have Emma O'Neill and Gordon Elliott on the call to answer any specific questions about that. So once we've protected and we've started to develop the IP, we now need to look at finding the right partners to either develop it further or to license it on as well. And how can we do that? Well, within our office and the wider division, we have a wide network of investors and industry contacts, which we can link you in with. I suppose becoming more and more important now in the digital age, we also have a digital marketing and matchmaking platform for any of our licensing opportunities known as InPart. So on the right, you can see there's an example of a technology flyer. So there's really an overview of information about a technology, which industry partners who are also signed up to the platform can see. And as well as that, there's a direct line from that platform into our office by the provider to initiate those conversations around licensing. Our office can also support with recommendations about specific conferences and events to attend, as well as that promotional materials and pitching perhaps at these events. And we can also facilitate any introductions and follow-ups as well. So now that we've marketed it, the next stage is to license it, to transfer this technology into the world. And this is where Trinity IP in a patent, for example, would be licensed either to an existing industry company or to a newly created Trinity campus company in order to develop and commercialize the technology and hopefully generate technology impact, both societal impact and economic impact. It is also important to note that any proceeds that come back to Trinity, so these could be royalties on licenses, for example, that will be distributed to the inventors, the school, and to the university as per our IP policy, which is available on our website to view. Our team can support with everything from licensing strategy development through to managing the negotiations, as well as the licenses to a newly created company, any post-deal management, and managing those licensee relationships and obligations too. So now we're getting on to the later stages of commercialization and thinking about how can IP commercialization lead to impact. Well, a patented technology that was licensed to an existing company or a technology that's been commercialized through a Trinity spin-out company can lead to improved patient outcomes by faster development of medical innovations. And among others, it can also lead to job creations through startup companies. I just wanted to highlight a recent example of that really highlights the successful commercialization very well in Provirum. So this was a Trinity campus company founded in 2016, and it recently secured $80 million in a Series B investment, which was actually the largest of any university campus company in Ireland. And this is to develop and enter the market with their minimally invasive solution for benign prostatic hyperplasia. Now, just to wrap up and finish off, I want to go through some key examples of commercialization successes from each of the 4 schools. So first off, we have Self-Sense Technologies with their smart splint technology, and someone who you might recognize, Professor Brian O'Connell and Dr. Padraig McAuliffe. So they developed a device to detect bruxism or teeth grinding, and this then formed a Trinity campus company. Next up, we have the School of Medicine and Dr. Dara Meldrum, who's a physiotherapist. So Vertigenius developed a device for vestibular rehabilitation, which is particularly important in conditions like vertigo. They received Enterprise Ireland commercialization funding and formed a joint RCSI and TCD campus company. And only last year they received a 2.1 million in investment to develop this medical device. ProAct is an example from the School of Nursing and Midwifery, and Dr. John Dinsmore and the Horizon Europe funded project around integrated technology ecosystems for proactive patient-centered care. And it's really focused on a digital integrated care system to support older adults with multi-morbidity, and that's been licensed to industry. So finally, in the School of Pharmacy and Pharmaceutical Sciences, we have Salvatrin Therapeutics and Professor John Gilmer. So they have iron supplements as well as aspirin prodrugs and an anti-inflammatory pipeline. And this was a Trinity campus company, and only recently this year they've signed an exclusive US deal for their active iron supplement. So that brings my part of the talk to a conclusion, and I'm now going to hand over to my colleague Lynn Markey to talk to you about industry engagement and the supports available to you.
Great, thanks, Alan. I'll just share my slides. Okay. Is that sharing okay? You can see? Okay. So good afternoon, everyone. So my name's Lynn Markey. I'm a business development manager in Trinity Innovation and Enterprise. And so for the rest of the presentation, I'll go through some of the business engagement supports available for Trinity researchers, look at why academics partner with industry and the benefits for it, some of the engagement
Lynn, can you
pathways.
go in presenter mode? Sorry for interrupting. You're not in presenter mode. So you're only seeing part of the slide.
Ah, okay.
Just the little PowerPoint or the slideshow at the bottom of the screen.
It's showing up as full screen in mine, but is it now in full screen on
Yeah,
yours?
that's
It's
it.
full screen. Okay. Thanks very much, Gordon. Okay, and so I'll go through a lot of my presentation. Will look at some of the funding mechanisms available for industry academic collaborations, look at some case studies, and finish up with some practical steps for engaging with industry and an exciting new initiative with Portal at Trinity East. And we'll finish with some questions then at the end. So this is the business engagement team. It's led by Chris Keeley, who some of you may know, who's the Senior Business Development Manager. I joined last year as a Business Development Manager for Health Sciences, and Jürgen is a Business Development Manager more in STEM and AHSS. And Tony is a Business Intelligence Analyst. And so within our team, we provide supports to researchers on comprehensive guidance in developing your industry proposition, facilitating discussions with partners, identifying suitable engagement mechanisms, and supporting through to successful project launch and beyond that. So developing industry collaborations can take time and effort, but there's a huge amount of benefit at the end of it. So why do academics partner with industry? And one of the main reasons is access to funding, whether that be funding from an industry partner or leveraging that funding for grant funding for industry and academia funding schemes. And I'll go through a number of those schemes later in the presentation. And it also provides a portfolio of industry partners for future funding opportunities, whether that's a letter of support is needed or leveraged funding. Another reason is access to resources. So whether that's specialized equipment or technology platforms, research expertise, or data sets like clinical data sets or market data. It's also beneficial to partner with industry to demonstrate real-world impact of your research. So it's an opportunity to commercialize research from your lab. And by partnering with the industry, there's a higher likelihood of translating your research into product services or clinical applications. And it really demonstrates the impact of your research for future grant applications. And then finally, another benefit for engaging with industry is it's an employment portal for your research group. So it provides real-world project experience, which helps researchers have job-ready skills when they are looking to go out into industry. They also have a network of industry contacts if they are changing roles. So this is the partnership staircase model from the UIIN, which is the University Industry Innovation Network. And really it tells us what we already know about building industry relationships, that it takes time and effort to build up relationships. And it really, our advice would be to start off with small interactions and build into larger collaborations, larger projects, and into strategic partnerships. And so as I go through the presentation, there's funding mechanisms available to support with industry academic collaborations on each step of this process. So there are a number of ways for academics to engage with industry. Starting from this kind of small short-term projects like consultancy, where an industry partner may come to Trinity looking for specific advice or expertise, and there's no new knowledge generated. It's really just advising an industry partner in consultancy, to knowledge transfer, where IP generated within the university can be licensed out to an industry partner if they need it for their product or their service. Contract research, where an industry partner might have a specific body of research that they've designed and they essentially contract it into the university to be carried out. And then a lot of the funding mechanisms I'll speak about are for collaborative research, where the projects are co-designed by the industry partner and the academic researcher. And the bottom line then is industry are also really interested in new ventures and talent education. So looking at the spin out and campus companies that are generated from Trinity, looking at the talent pipeline, and also education and upskilling their own staff. And we've also seen philanthropic donations such as Ryanair's SAF donation or for sustainable aviation fuels, where industry want to donate money for a specific research area. So this slide is very busy, and it's meant to be. These are the funding schemes available for supporting industry academic collaborations. And really the key message in this slide is it's not your job to understand each of these funding schemes, it's our job. So if you are looking at industry projects, to please do reach out and engage with the industry team, and we'll be happy to support and guide you through the process. So I'll talk through some of the schemes available for industry academic engagement, starting from the kind of smaller and shorter projects all the way up to strategic partnerships. So the first is the Enterprise Ireland Innovation Voucher. These are vouchers of €10,000 available for SMEs based in Ireland. And the company can avail of up to 4 of these vouchers, so up to €40,000 over 4 stages. And these can be used for consultancy, testing, prototype development, and desk-based research. And they can build on the project. So for example, the first voucher might look at evaluating an idea. The second voucher might look at developing and designing a product. And then the third voucher might look at building and testing. So it's a really nice way to engage with the SME network within Ireland. And this is an open call that the company would apply for these vouchers. The next scheme I'll speak through is the Enterprise Fellowship Programme. So we're expecting this call to open in early next year. And it's a nice way for academics to engage with industry without a huge amount of financial outlay from the industry partner. So there's 2 streams for the postdoctoral researchers, the partnership scheme and the placement scheme. And then for postgraduate researchers, there's the partnership scheme. And the difference here is the partnership scheme is that the researcher is based in the university. So it's a lot more collaborative. The academic and the industry partner co-design the project and co-supervise the project. Whereas in the placement scheme, the researcher is based in the company and there's less involvement from the university. So for the postgraduate enterprise partnership scheme, it's a co-funding call linking excellent researchers with enterprise. It aims to support master's or PhD researchers while based in the university, and it provides funding of 34,000 for 1 to 4 years. And the co-funding is divided 2 to 1. Research Ireland to industry. So Research Ireland will provide 22,700 to 11,300 supplied by industry. And the enterprise partners don't necessarily have to be companies. They can be registered charities, not-for-profits, state-owned enterprises, and some public bodies can also co-fund and co-supervise the researchers. For the postgraduate or the postdoctoral enterprise partnership scheme, then the researcher again is based in the university, and it's designed to provide researchers with vital experience working with an organization in the field of research. And it's really to facilitate commercialization and application of research. And it's worth noting as well, the enterprise partner can be based anywhere in the world, so multinationals, SMEs, nonprofits, etc. And it can be for 1 to 2 years full-time. And the enterprise partner contributes 1/3 of the value of the award. So last year, this was 22,000 to 27,500. And this is a short application led by the researcher with input from the enterprise partner. The next funding scheme I'll talk through is the Innovation Partnership Programme. So this is funded through Enterprise Ireland, and it's for Irish-based companies. And this provides grants of up to 80% towards eligible costs of the project. It's essentially an open call. It's 1 deadline per month. And the companies have to be based in Ireland. And the company has access to expertise and resources to undertake research towards the development of new and improved products, processes, or services. And the projects can run for up to 24 months. Typically, these projects are in and around 200,000, but it can be more or less. And the company contribution is based on the size of the company and the type of research being carried out. But there's a minimum of 20% cash contribution, and the remainder can be made up with in-kind contributions. So an example of this is the Eurofins partnership with Professor John O'Leary's lab, where they were looking to develop capacity of the company around next generation sequencing for molecular typing of viruses, and to develop new expertise in molecular diagnostic sector in Ireland. So this would have fallen under industrial collaborative research, because there was development required for the new product. And this, because they're a large company, would be 20% cash contribution from the company, and then 15% either in cash or in-kind contribution. And again, an IP agreement will be put in place before the project begins. So this funding supported the partnership between Eurofins and John O'Leary's lab. And then skip forward to today, they now have a shared diagnostics lab in TTMI at St. James's. The TTMI researchers have on-site access to the latest instruments and diagnostic toolkits. And then both partners are looking to build in this collaboration with larger funding opportunities. Another funding scheme available for academics looking to engage with industry is the Strategic Partnership Programme. And this is for Irish companies, but also for international companies. So they don't necessarily have to be based in Ireland. And the industry partner can be either charities or philanthropic organizations or traditional companies or a combination of these. So this funding is, I have here 800,000 to 6 million is typically what is funded, but recently one of the strategic partnerships I think was 28 million. So you can see that there's a large scale and variety in the size of the partnerships available under this funding. The funding is up to 5 years, and it's a 50-50 cost share model, which means that for every euro that industry contributes or the charity partner contributes, Research Ireland will match that funding. And it's worth noting as well that with these co-funded schemes, the overhead rate is 30% versus 75% for fully funded projects. And I'll talk through a little bit about that in this slide. So this is an example of one of the strategic partnerships, ID. So it was led by Professor Matt Campbell and Sarah Doyle, where they're looking at new treatments for degenerative retinal diseases. So the scale of this was 3.2 million, so a cost share of 50%. So 1.6 million from Research Ireland and 1.6 million from the enterprise partners. And you can see there's multiple partners within this. And it's worth noting as well, it's not that all these partners came together under one project. The Mass and Sarah would have had projects with each of these partners individually to build up this strategic partnership. And the bottom table there is just to demonstrate the difference between fully funded and cost-shared projects. So for this strategic partnership, it was 3.2 million in direct funding, so half provided by the industry partners, and the industry overhead rate at 30%. And so the full cost of the industry partner is just over 2 million. To fully fund this project from an industry partner, so 3.2 million in direct costs, the industry overhead at 75% is 2.4 million, and the full cost to industry then is 5.6 million. So you can see it's 2 or 3 times the amount not using or using fully funded. The last scheme I'll talk about then is the Disruptive Technology Innovation Funds, or DTIF. So we're expecting a new call for this early next year. And so DTIF is about funding collaborations that demonstrate technology-based disruptive innovations that can alter markets or alter the way businesses operate or involve new products or the emergence of new business models. So typically this funds projects of 2 to 8 million, but it can be more. The minimum is 1.5 million and the duration is over 3 years, but shorter projects will be considered. The cost share model is 50% for SMEs, 40% for multinationals, and 100% for universities, but the universities can't receive more than 50% of the funding. Eligible companies have to be based in Ireland and have to be EI, IDA, or Údaros na Gaeltachta clients. And projects, eligible projects are 3 partners with 1 SME and another enterprise partner, and are typically TRL level 3 to 7. So I spoke a little bit about fully funded projects earlier, and the higher overhead rate for fully funded collaborative projects. The reason why companies might choose this route rather than one of the cost-shared collaborations is the IP rights tend to favor companies when it's fully funded. But having said that, some consideration has to be given to the statement of work and the background IPR before agreeing to a project. Aside from that, resourcing is also really important to consider, not just for fully funded projects, but also for any industry academic projects. So consideration needs to be given on the management, resources, deliverables, and timelines. And we would advise to hire experienced PDRAs or research fellows so the projects are staffed adequately and run smoothly. And finally, for fully funded projects, the company will usually want to use their own contract format, which isn't our preferred starting point. It can add to the review and approval process the time it takes, so just to be mindful of that. And I'll finish up with some key considerations before engaging with industry. So the first thing is around IP. Ensure you protect your intellectual property. Make sure there's an NDA in place before having discussions. I'd also say to manage the expectations around IP with industry partners early, so that they're aware of the IP situation. If grant funding is used, typically the IP will remain within the university and there's an option to license it, and that they're aware of that, that they don't think that they will own the IP at the end of it, because that's where problems can occur further down the line if they're not aware of that. And then other considerations are publication rights. So do you have the right to publish the project at the end of it, or do you need to have a review and approval from an industry partner beforehand? And are there any considerations around data or material transfers? The other key consideration is around budgets and timelines. So is there enough contingency fund built in and enough contingency timelines to built in if there are delays, if people need to be recruited or materials need to be brought in, or if experiments need to be repeated, is there contingency in place within the budgets and timelines? The other thing to really be mindful of is the overhead rates, to make sure that the correct overhead rate is applied to a budget. There's nothing worse than telling an industry partner that a project's going to cost 100,000, say, and then come back a few months later and say, actually, it's going to cost 130,000 or 175,000 because overhead rates weren't applied. And it's very hard to get project approval if that does happen. So we're here to support and and happy to review any budgets. So if you are engaging with industry and sending out budgets, please do engage with the industry team. We're happy to support that. The last thing is to look at project governance. So what the expectation is around reporting, what is the final report expectations, are there interim reports expected, and what are the project updates, expectations, etc. And to have those conversations up front. And then finally, just around funding, and particularly around cost share projects, it's worth mapping out what the in-kind supports are from the industry partners. So whether that's employees' time, their equipment, their data, or their technology, whatever their in-kind supports that they're providing or bringing to the table, it's worth mapping that out because it demonstrates in the proposal the depth of the relationship and the strength of the collaboration. And then finally, I'd just say to engage with the industry team early. We're here to support and happy to help. So I think this is my last slide. So just to introduce the new Innovation Hub at Trinity, portal at Trinity East. This is brand new. It only opened a couple of weeks ago and it's based in 4 Grand Canal Quay. So you can see the tower there beside it, which is where the TTO offices are. And this is an innovation and enterprise hub where industry, academia, startups and the wider community can meet, co-create and innovate. And so there's a whole schedule of activities planned for the next year, including sort of incubation and accelerators, networks and partnerships and events. And we actually held an event there last week with the UIIN. So if you are interested in this space, reach out to Neil Gordon, who's the director of Portal, and go and arrange a tour and check it out. It's a really exciting space and lots of activity happening there over the next year. So I'll finish up on that if there are any questions, and just thank you for your time, and here are contact details to reach out if there are any follow-ups.
Great. Thank you. Thank you very much, Lynn. That was really, really good. And also the same to Owen and Gordon as well. Yeah, I think really great. Thank you for that. You're all very concise, very informative, loads of information there. I'm not sure if we're recording this or not. It doesn't look like it, but maybe we could get the slides and
Sure.
make them available to people because you really gave us a lot of information there. Oh, it is. I see
It is recording, Brian,
Yeah.
and it'll be on the website. Yeah.
And be on the website. So again, I would ask our audience if you have any questions for the panelists at this stage. Now would be a good time to do that. I'm sure there are people who it is probably who are interested in dipping their toe in the water, or maybe are a little bit further along, but it would be good to hear their concerns. I suppose maybe while we're waiting for others to get on board, I had a couple of questions myself that maybe the panel might answer. First of all, I suppose we're all very used to research funds being, extremely competitive with extremely, low success rates overall. Can you give us a sense how competitive these innovation funds are, and is it a hard slog to get some of these funds, or is it more doable than your typical research grant?
So for the industry academic collaborations, the success rates tend to be higher. And it's really dependent on what the partnership is, what the project is, and the eligibility criteria of the project or of the funding scheme. But they do tend to be much higher than some of the European funding. I think is in the low, like less than 5%. So yeah, it's certainly much higher than that. There isn't a general rate, but it would be much higher. Yeah.
Okay. And I suppose again, you gave a lot of really good examples there, but I suppose that's showing the successful or somewhat successful projects. In general terms, I wonder if you can maybe comment on what if someone has an idea, not without wanting to kind of discourage anybody from coming forward, what tend to be the ideas that travel, as opposed to those that maybe people need to develop further or think more about that are not so successful?
Maybe I can have a go at that answer to that one. Usually, it's pretty simple, Brian. We get an IDF in, and we have a target. We do about 70 IDFs per year. A large portion of them will come from health sciences and from life sciences in general. And we ask two questions there. What's the market opportunity? So is there a demand for it, and what's the competitive environment like? And then what's the patentability? Is there not just patentability, also IP? Can we protect IP through copyright or something like this? And then we would look at it. Is it a prospect for a commercialization fund, enterprise or a commercialization fund? And sometimes we can ask that question with a commercialization fund feasibility award. We get a consultant in to do a bit more studies, and we approach Enterprise Ireland. We have one-on-one conversations with them. Now, it's not for the faint-hearted in a commercialization fund application. It is very involved. However, the success rate can be quite high, because by the time you get to the point of committing to writing it, you've already gone through quite a significant amount of screening and assessment. So between ourselves and a commercialization specialist, it's very hands-on. Before there's a lot of questions asked, conversations, one-on-ones, a bit different from an open call type of a programmatic research application.
Okay, thanks. Anyone else want to comment on that?
Yeah, maybe I'll just make a comment as well. I suppose, things have changed quite a bit recently with the commercialization fund, and now there's also a proof of concept available. So before, you're kind of going for like a much larger award, and there was very involved in terms of even the information that you needed to go for a commercialization fund. But there's two changes really for the commercialization fund. The first is that there is this POC award. So I think it's maybe up to 100 or 150K. And the second is that everything now is an invited call. So we don't go into the open call anymore. So as Gordon said, there's a lot of support from the commercialization specialists by the time you actually get to the point of putting in the application. I think in the past, we would have thought about 30% of our, particularly in the life sciences areas, would have been successful. But you can then resubmit as well if it's not. But I think the really key thing for Enterprise Ireland is that there's a big market, and that there's a really clear unmet need that isn't very crowded from a competitive landscape point of view. For the ARC Hub program, so just to mention, there's also an ARC Hub program for health tech, which is kind of more medical device focused, but would be also relevant. That is led by University of Galway, and RCSI are a key partner there. So they only got up and running in June of this year. And there's also an ARC Hub for ICT, which is run out of TU Dublin. So this whole pot of money, this is 100 million euros in total for advancing research commercialization. It's actually much more flexible in terms of the funding. So Research Ireland, not SFI anymore, has actually kind of given over this pot of money to the ARC Hub teams or to the universities to decide how it can be deployed. So one of the things we're looking for, I suppose, with the therapeutics fund is that PIs come to us maybe where they might need smaller amounts of money. So they might need 50K or 100K to maybe do a high throughput screen, or maybe get a vector made or something. So there's more flexibility, and more information will be kind of available through the ARC Hub team on that. So I think it's all steps in the right direction. But yes, I think the key things really, there always has to be an opportunity for spin out and a high unmet need.
Great, thank you. And maybe one other question, one other very personal question, since I have you there. Having just missed out on the last DTIF by the smallest of margins, what you said, there is another call coming out, will it be the same as previously? Because I heard they were changing some elements of the DTIF. Do you know anything about that? Because I know not for me, many other people are interested in that as well.
Sure. Imelda Larkin was actually at the UIIN event, and we got to speak to her at that. And she indicated that a call would be announced in January. So the full details of the call should be available early in the new year.
Okay, but no other details about it. Yeah, great.
There is a question now in the Q&A
Right.
box.
Go for it.
Okay, so it's from Jan. So do I understand correctly that if I had a really good idea, should I talk with you first before starting to chat about it to many people? So Owen, would you like to take that?
Yeah, I'm happy to take that. So yeah, I would encourage you to get in contact with us as early as possible. Particularly as you mentioned, talking to other people about it, because as we mentioned, one of the key things we're looking at is patentability. And in order to patent something, it can't have been disclosed in the public domain before we file a patent. So what I would encourage you to do is just come and have a chat with us as early as possible. And then oftentimes what we'll get you to do is fill in an invention disclosure form. And that really forms then the basis for potentially going ahead with patent protection. But yeah, the key message is just to come and talk to us as soon as possible about your idea.
Jan says, will do.
Will do. Yeah,
That's great.
good.
I look forward to it.
Exactly. Yes, I think that was a good point as well, because sometimes I think people do have, maybe existing relationships with some company or other, and maybe get in a little deep before you think to start protecting it. So that is a good point. And who would be the first point of contact, say, for somebody in health sciences? Who should they write to first, or email?
Myself or Owen typically, although Emma also would deal with, but Emma's more towards biochemistry, and but we do cross over quite a bit. So it would be myself or Owen, and then for industry engagement, I mean, if you have an industry partner that you'd like to do a collaborative project on, then Lane, there's kind of two separate types of functions here. One is to help you to get funding to collaborate with an industry, and the other one is to try and get funding to commercialize the technology or a piece of research that you've got. That'll be myself or Owen.
Great. Thank you. Okay. I don't see any other questions in the Q&A for now. I'll give everybody there a last chance to get in if there's anything burning. But I assume now that we have your contacts and we have the talk, people will be able to get in touch should they need to. So, once again, thank you very, very much. Thanks to Lena for getting it together, but especially to yourselves from TI&E who have shared that with us, and I think it's something we get asked about all the time. So it's great to see how many options there are available, and how approachable it is, and so on, and how much expert help is available. So that's, I think, really heartening for people. So no need to wonder anymore. We can be at your door. So I think if there's nothing else burning, we'll, as they say, give you back some of your time. And thank you once again.
Thank you.
Thanks
Thanks
very
very
much.
much.
Take
Bye.
care, everybody. Bye
Thanks
bye.
all. Thanks, Ian.
Bye.
Bye.